Tonight, with the Creative Contessa, I'm going to teach you how you can make beautiful braids like these, like this, with which you can adorn your clothing. So let's get to it. Before we get into the specific technique, let's talk briefly about the history of this braid. I recently discovered something very exciting, an archaeological paper on the finds in Hallstatt. And for those who don't know, these are salt mines in Austria. And salt mines are great because they preserve textiles and many things really well. It's why Nazis used them to store art. Anyway, this find is from the 5th through 8th century BC. That's when they've dated it to. And this braid seems to be finger loop woven. And not only is it finger loop woven, but it's actually 5 or 4 different colors, red, blue, green, and another color. They think maybe black. It's kind of hard to tell, the colors have faded. So it's actually a rather intricate pattern, but experts really do believe that it's finger looping. So if you have an Iron Age persona or you redo an Iron Age interpretation, this is a technique that could be useful for you. We also have extant examples from grave finds from the late 1st millennium, also from the 12th and 13th centuries, the 14th centuries, 15th centuries, and it just gets more and more on up until the 17th century, I think, are some of the latest finds. So let's get down to the brass tacks of the technique. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to make a very simple yet decorative braid called the Grene Dorge, seen here in its final version. For this we need 3 colors, and of course I'm going to use my personal house colors: black, red, and gold. So you can pick any 3 colors you like, and I suppose if you just want 2 colors you can do that too, but that would sort of defy the purpose of the braid. So let's talk about how to get ourselves set up. Okay, let's go ahead and make our loops. So I'm just going to use my arm for this because it's a sample piece, but the longer your loops, the longer your braids. So, wrap them around a table or 2 pieces of furniture to create longer loops. I'm wrapping 4 of the black around my arm. Black is going to be the prominent color that actually outlines this braid. So you want 4 loops of that. And then I'm just going to take the little ends and tie them over the loops in just several square knots to try to secure those loops as much as possible. We don't want them coming undone while braiding. That would lead to tears and sadness. There we go, our 4 black loops. So to ensure that all the loops are exactly the same length, which is really important for ease of working with them, I'm going to actually wrap them together. So I put the black loops back on whatever is my warping implement or objects, in this case my forearm. So now I'm going to take my red, and I only need 1 red loop for this, and wrap it around. And I'm sorry, I did this from the wrong angle. You can't really see what's happening. But I'm going to then also just go ahead and wrap my yellow around, leaving a little excess on the ends so that I have little tails to utilize to tie square knots. And so I'm going to take the yellow ends and tie those all the way around my red and my black loops at the same spot where the black knots are, ideally. And then once that is done, oh, here I am struggling trying to present this in a way that you can see it while also accomplishing it. This goes much more naturally if I don't have to present this for a camera, I swear it. So as I clumsily attempt to do this in a demonstrable manner, I manage it eventually, and then I take the red loops also and tie them. Oh, look at that look of consternation on my face. That's probably me thinking I'm not normally this graceless at this process. And then I pull the black to make sure its knots are lined up, and there I have all of my loops. Now that we have our loops, we need to create our anchor. So I'm going to take double up of my black, and it could be any color. In fact, I actually recommend you do this in a contrasting color from all of the colors of your loops. You'll understand why at the end. We're going to place this on my fingers or on your fingers, and then wrap your anchor thread around the back of all of your loops, capturing them, as you can see here. Then twist that anchor thread, grab it in your fingers, grab the other end of your loops, and pull the anchor through so that you now have a secure anchor for your loops, and we will then use those anchor threads to attach them. Now we're going to trim the excess tails at this point. We don't want them to get in our way. And there we are, all looped up and ready to go. So here I'm running my anchor thread through this special system I've created in my dining room table. You could use a doorknob or your toe or a piece of furniture for this. I've specifically set this up for ease of capturing this on video for your benefit. You want to put as many secure knots as possible into your anchor thread. You do not want this coming undone. And ideally, you will wrap your anchor thread several times around your anchor point. Again, security is the name of this game. If this anchor thread gives way while you're finger looping, it will be impossible for you to recover your loops perfectly, or very unlikely at any rate. So more secure is better, more is more. The first thing we need to do is divide our loops and put them on the appropriate fingers. So you'll notice that I have my own Creative Contessa prison tats. So fingers are actually labeled in the original manuscripts by letters. So your index finger is finger A, your middle finger is finger B, your ring finger is finger C, and your pinky is D. And so I've marked them in both directions so that you can see which letter they are no matter which angle we are using. So you have your left hand and you have your right hand. Let's talk about our left hand, what goes on the left hand. So we take, it doesn't really matter which of the odd colors, I'm just going to take yellow because it's right there, and we're going to put that on finger A. Then we're going to take one of the black and put that on finger B, another of the black and put that on finger C. Okay. So then we're going to do the inverse with your right hand. So I'm going to put the red, the odd loop, the other odd color, on finger D. I'm going to put the other black, one of the other blacks, if I can separate it. Come on, you guys don't have to like each other that much. I mean, wow, they have just sort of gotten married. Okay, other black on finger C, and the fourth black on finger B. So as you're looking at this, basically the four black loops are parallel to each other, basically like a mirror image. Okay, so quick note on finger looping technique. You want to get in the habit of having arthritic fingers, right? Because if you relax your fingers and let them go straight, then the loops are very likely to just pop right off. Okay, so let's take a look at this setup from the front angle. So here is the setup from the front. Okay, finger A, B, C, and D. D is your pinky. So we have odd color number 1 on A of the left hand. 2 of the outlining colors, so to say, black in this case, on fingers B and C, so that's left hand. On my right hand, we have outlining colors, the prominent colors, on B and C, and then we have the other odd color out on finger D. Okay, so you can sort of see the offset that we have going on here. This braid consists of 2 basic exchanges, and by which I mean pulling loops from one finger to the other. So the first kind of exchange you're going to need to know is reversed or unreversed. So reversed means which side of your loop you grab when you're grabbing it. So if I were to grab the bottom of the loop like that, like reach around the backside and grab the bottom, this is actually going to cause that loop to twist, thereby reversing it. So whenever you grab a loop reversed, that's what you're doing. Okay. Unreversed means that you just grab it straight across without causing any twisting. The loop moves from one finger to the other without any sort of twisting. And when I do an exchange, I try to keep at least slightly arthritic fingers, right? So that it doesn't have the tendency to slip off. See, that's what happens if you're not completely hooked. So reversed and unreversed exchanges. And then there is an exchange whereby you literally just pass one loop on the outside of the other. I'll demonstrate that more carefully in a moment. This braid also involves creating corridors, by which I mean we take 2 fingers and we line up the loops like so, creating a corridor. And then we reach through that corridor to grab other loops in a specific constellation. So those are your 3 sort of basic manipulation techniques that we'll be using in this video. Feel free to rewind and review as needed. Moving on. This is a very basic braid. It has 5 steps. We're actually going to start working with our right hand. So I'm going to take fingers B and C and create a corridor as we talked about. So those 2 black loops are now aligned. I'm going to take finger A, marked with the beautiful prison tat. I'm going to stick it through that corridor, and I'm going to grab the bottom of the opposite loop on finger C, left, causing that loop to reverse. And I'm going to pull that loop back out. It is now on finger A. So the loop that was on finger left C is now on finger A right. I'm going to pull out finger B so that we now have 3 black loops, A, B, and C on the right hand. Red is still untouched on the bottom of my right hand. And on my left hand, we now have loop is still on A and only 1 black loop. Okay. So now I'm going to take finger C on my left hand, and I'm going to just grab loop from B to migrate it down. So now we have a swinging, happy, free middle finger. Wow. Okay, B, finger B. I'm going to call that finger B. Okay, now I'm just going to tighten here, open my hands up, and just draw that tight. Okay. Now on my left hand, I'm going to do something with my left hand. I'm going to stick my free swinging finger B through the loop on, wow, this sounds really raunchy, on finger C. And I'm going to grab the bottom of the black loop that's on finger C on my right hand, thereby reversing it. And I'm going to pull that through. Okay. And now I'm going to migrate loop B down and loop A down and tighten. So now I have yellow loop is still where it was. The black loops have all exchanged places. Red loop is still where it was. And the final step is an exchange of the 2 colored loops, the odd loops out, so to say. So taking finger D on my right hand, I'm going to swap with finger A on my left hand. So now those loops have changed places, straight across, no reversing. Tighten. And that's 1 whole pass. So let's try that again. Finger B and C, fingers B and C create a corridor on the right hand. Free swinging finger A comes through and grabs the bottom of loop C on the left hand, comes back out. B comes back out. Migrate loop B down to C, tighten. Stick free swinging finger B to grab the loop on C right hand, reversed, pull that through, tighten, and now we swap the colored ones and tighten, and repeat, or excuse me, migrate the 2 black loops down, thereby freeing up finger A. Okay, let's do it a couple more times from this angle, and then we'll change angles. Create your corridor, pull through reversed, migrate down, stick free swinging B through, grabbing the loop from right C, migrate down and tighten, swap loops A and D and tighten, create your corridor, grab the bottom of this loop, and you'll see that you'll start getting really efficient and creating shortcuts. Migrate down, tighten, and swap. Create your corridor, pull across, migrate down, grab reversed, swap colors. Okay, let's see it from a different angle. So now let's talk about the technique from this angle. So we create our corridor with B and C on the right hand. Free swinging finger A grabs the loop from C on the left hand, bottom of it to reverse it, pulls it back through. B pulls back through. Migrate B down to C on the left hand. Free swinging finger B comes through and grabs the bottom of loop C, reversing it and pulling it through. We migrate these loops on A and B down to B and C. We tighten, and then we swap A left hand with D right hand and tighten. And now we repeat. We create our corridor, sticking that finger through, pulling loop C over across onto finger A, reversing, migrate loop B down. B becomes a free swinging finger, sticks through the loop that was just on it, grabs loop C from the right hand, pulls back through, migrate B and C down, or A and B down rather, to B and C on the right hand, and we tighten, and then we swap loops, yellow and red, loops A left and D right. And we repeat. So let's do this for a couple more iterations from this angle. So the nice thing about this particular braid is it progresses very quickly, and also you can see the pattern form almost instantly. In fact, you'll notice that there's no unpleasantness here at the base, which can happen with some other braids when you're first working out the kinks, as it were. So yeah, in essence, we continue doing this until your fingers can no longer really successfully fit through and manipulate the loops anymore. And then I like to actually do a normal break the loops up and then do a standard 3-strand braid to finish it off. So this is actually 6 loops, which breaks down into 3 sets of 2 loops quite nicely. And the reason that I do this is because this is the end that will then get tucked under if you're applying it as trim, or inserted into a shape if you're using it as a lace for a garment. So you do want this nice little braided end to act as that excess for any kind of manipulation you may wish to do on the braid when you apply it to something else. Now I then just put a simple, easy to get out knot at the end here, and you can then take that out whenever you're going to actually, apply it to something, so that it doesn't get tempted to come undone. It won't undo very far, but it just gives you a nice, neat ending, a pause button, so to say, in your braid. Okay, so as you can see, my tension was not even throughout. At the back end of it, the back 2/3 or 3/4 even, it was pretty even, you can see in the pattern, but at the beginning it was a little looser. So this just emphasizes the importance of attempting to maintain the same tension throughout, which will mean earlier in the braid more tension, later in the braid less tension, because actually the tension naturally increases the shorter your loops get, and the harder it is for your fingers to manipulate. So there is your Grene Dorge. Comment in below if you would like to see another braid, or if you would like suggestions on how to apply this beauty. One last thing. I've cut the anchor loops, but I want to show you how easy it is to get them out entirely from your braid if you use my method of anchoring. So you just identify where they are, and actually it's handy if you pick anchoring thread that isn't a completely different color, because then you can identify it. You grab the loop and you pull out, and it's gone. And then you have an end without any extra anchors. You can trim these excess threads here. And again, you have that end to tuck into a shape or tuck into a seam if you're going to use it as trim on an item. So this is the part where I normally do my clothes back in my chair, but this is what I found in my chair just now when I went to do my clothes. Hey, you, wake up. No sleeping now. Sleeping is for nighttime, not for now. Anyway, I guess that's your kitty video for this particular segment. Thank you for joining me today for our finger loop lesson, the Grene Dorge. I hope you've enjoyed it and learned something new. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or other finger looping needs. Otherwise, stay creative.